going to talk about the flesh. Human beings are triune beings. That means that there's three parts of us that come together to create who we are. Those three parts are the flesh, the mind or the soul, and the spirit or your essence. Now we're going to talk about the flesh. The flesh is the outward interface. The flesh is the part of the human being that interacts with the world around us. If you think about like an app on your phone, okay, the flesh is what we would call the user interface, all right? Behind the flesh or behind that user interface is a lot of programming, a lot of code. That would be the soul, okay? And then the light that comes from that app or the sound effects, letting people know that that app is going on, the signature aspects of that particular app, that would be the spirit. We're talking about the flesh, the user interface. Now, human flesh is actually composed of almost 80% water. Now, water, if you look at water, it takes the path of least resistance. Water can flow. Water adapts to its surroundings. Water can be structured. It adapts to the temperature of its surroundings, to the shape of its surroundings. Bruce Lee says that, if you put water in a round glass, the water becomes round. If you put it in a square glass, it becomes square. Water conforms to its surroundings and to its shape. And our body does the same thing. If we leave our body unmonitored, it will lead itself to destruction. It will feed itself to destruction. It will touch itself to destruction. It will sleep itself to destruction. Our body will destroy itself without external governance. That external governance is called discipline. And that discipline comes from the soul. Okay, but we're still in the flesh. So when the flesh is disciplined, it's just like water. Whatever framework, whatever tracks, whatever boundaries, whatever limitations you put around it, it will adapt to those limitations and meet those limitations. The flesh is very malleable. It's very flexible. If you stretch it, it will eventually adapt to that position of stretching, and it will increase in its flexibility. If you confine it, it will eventually begin to deteriorate, and it will adapt to that confinement. If you feed the flesh foods that are not healthy for it, the flesh will grow unhealthy. If you feed the flesh foods that are healthy, the flesh will be nourished, and it will increase in strength and vibrance and color and life. If you exercise the flesh, it will become stronger. If you do not exercise the flesh, it will deteriorate. The flesh is 100% malleable to how you treat it, to what you do to it, to what you do for it. The last thing I want to say about the flesh has to do with eating, because it's a very fundamental thing for us to eat. But I believe that one of the largest challenges, specifically that Americans face, is that we eat to satisfy our tongues rather than eating to sustain the flesh. And let me parallel that. When we eat to satisfy our tongues, number one, we're going to eat an abundance of things that we don't need. Secondly, we're going to eat stuff that may taste really good, but is not good for us. It's not nutrient rich. So it doesn't sustain, or it doesn't fill the flesh. It doesn't support the flesh, but it satisfies the tongue. So think about the combination of those two. If we're eating things that satisfy the tongue in abundance and that are unnecessary for our bodies, and then we look in the mirror and we wonder why our bodies look the way they do, that's why. That's why. It's what you feed the flesh. The soul and then the spirit are also fed by particular activities, but the flesh is the front line that you'll be able to see the manifestation of who the person is. The flesh is your user interface. Now, we will talk about how the soul gets fed, but that's another discussion for another drive. Until then, I'll see you soon.